We all know that feeling, right? You get this incredible idea, a goal so big, it just lights you up, fills your head with possibilities. You can almost taste the success.
Right.
And then, well, it just kind of fizzles out, like you've hit some kind of invisible wall. And it's so frustrating because you often can't even nail down what's stopping you.
That's such a common experience, really. It's something you see everywhere. People with amazing drive, amazing talent, just stuck.
Right.
And the reasons. They're usually deeper than just, not trying hard enough. So this deep dive, it's all about shining a light on those, let's say, hidden obstacles, the things that really stop us hitting those big goals.
Exactly. And we've dug into some really fascinating stuff for this. Everything from psychology papers on achievement to like really personal stories about breaking through inertia, looking at why even super motivated people can sometimes feel like they're just spinning their wheels. So yeah, this isn't just a quick pep talk. We're really getting into the why behind it all.
And our aim today really is to give you a much clearer picture of those forces, the ones you don't always see, that come into play when you're chasing something big.
Right.
And maybe more importantly, we want to give you some practical stuff, not just theories, so you can start spotting these roadblocks in your own life and figure out how to get past them, like right away.
Yeah, kind of a direct route to understanding what's maybe holding you back and, crucially, how to get moving again.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this. One of the first, like, really big hurdles that kept popping up everywhere we looked was fear. But maybe not the kind of fear you first think of, not the obvious physical danger kind. It's quieter than that.
Precisely. It's those anxieties sort of bubbling under the surface when we think about stepping outside what feels safe,
Right.
The fear of failure is huge, obviously, but it often brings friends along, like the fear of actually succeeding.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, or the fear of being seen, being noticed, and that little nagging voice saying you're just not good enough.
And this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Our brains, which are basically wired for survival, can actually mistake the discomfort of chasing big goals, which is pretty normal for actual danger. Like the internal alarm bells are just a bit too sensitive.
That's a great way to put it, that survival wiring kicks in.
Yeah.
And this quiet fear, it doesn't usually show up as like a racing heart or sweaty palms. Instead, it gets clever. It disguises itself as perfectly reasonable thought.
Oh, yeah. Like logic.
Exactly. It whispers those very sensible sounding doubts that are, frankly, incredibly good at keeping us right where we are.
We all know those whispers, don't we? Maybe this isn't quite the right time, or what if I totally mess this up and embarrass myself?
What will people think? That's a big one.
Definitely. And these thoughts feel so rational, so sensible. But what the material we looked at suggests is that often they're just fear wearing a very convincing mask.
Right. And what's key to get your head around is that even though they feel like objective facts, they're usually rooted in anxiety, in that pull towards staying comfy.
But big goals mean stepping out of the comfort zone, by definition.
Exactly. Growth happens out there.
So what's the takeaway here? Instead of just hitting the brakes when fear pops up, maybe we need to see it differently.
Well, yeah. The sources suggest maybe that feeling, that unease, could actually be a sign you're on the right track.
Like a compass.
Sort of, like it's pointing towards growth, towards stretching yourself into something new, rather than just being a signal to, run away.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe. Thinking of it as the feeling of your comfort zone actually expanding.
It indicates you're challenging yourself.
Okay, so fear is massive. But the sources also kept pointing to something else, another huge roadblock. The stories we tell ourselves. This one really hit home for me.
Ah, yes, the internal narratives, these self-limiting beliefs. They're like invisible scripts, aren't they?
Totally.
Dictating what we genuinely believe is possible for us. And those beliefs, well, they massively shape what we do or don't do.
Think about those common ones. You hear them all the time. Oh, I'm just not a math person. Or I've never had much discipline.
Right. People like me don't usually do things like that.
Exactly. And they feel like solid truths, like facts about who we are. But the argument is they're often just stories we've picked up along the way.
And what's really fascinating is how they become self-fulfilling. If you keep telling yourself you can't do something,
you probably won't try very hard, or you'll quit easily.
Precisely. Which just reinforces the original story. See? I told you I wasn't disciplined.
It's like we build our own cages with these stories. But the really hopeful part, the empowering insight, is that they are just stories. Constructed.
Which means
it can be rewritten.
Absolutely. And the sources point out that people who achieve big things often go through this kind of identity shift.
How so?
They actively question the old stories, they challenge them, and they consciously start building a new identity, one that actually fits their goals. They sort of become the person who can achieve that thing.
So it's not just about trying harder inside the old story. It's about stepping into a new one, becoming the main character in a different narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Aligning who you believe you are with who you need to be.
Wow. It really makes you stop and think about the stories you're living inside right now, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Are they helping? Or are they, like, tying you down? Maybe it's time for a rewrite.
That's a great question for you listening. What stories are you telling yourself? Are they empowering you? Or are they holding you back? And if they are limiting, what new story could you start writing today?
Okay, so we've got these internal things, fear, limiting stories. Let's shift focus a bit to something external, but incredibly powerful in today's world. Distractions.
Ah, yes. Distractions, the silent killers of big goals, especially now.
They're everywhere.
Absolutely. And particularly with digital tech, they are so effective at just pulling our focus away constantly. It takes sustained concentration to achieve something big, and these things just chip away at it.
It's so easy to fall in that trap too, isn't it? You sit down, fully intending to work on that important thing, and bam, suddenly you're checking emails, scrolling feeds, just quickly looking something up.
And it can feel productive, right?
Yeah.
Like you're researching or staying informed.
Yeah. But often, it's just a really clever way to avoid the actual hard work, the uncomfortable bit.
And the tech is designed for that, isn't it? Those little dopamine hits, every notification, it's a tiny reward. So our brains get trained to seek them out, especially when the alternative is facing something difficult or, let's be honest, maybe a bit boring.
Because tackling big goals is often uncomfortable. There's uncertainty, maybe some fear of failure, just sheer effort required. Distractions are like a little escape hatch.
It's a very tempting one. But what we saw consistently in the research is that people who make real progress on big goals, they guard their attention fiercely.
They don't just hope for focus, they actively build it.
Exactly. They create the conditions for it. They understand that focus is absolutely critical.
And the cost of constantly being pulled away, it's huge. It's not just lost time, it's fragmented thinking, less clarity.
And it erodes your momentum, your confidence too. Like trying to fill a leaky bucket. You keep pouring effort in, but it just drains away.
Right.
So here's something to try. Next time you feel that urge, that instinct to reach for your phone or click away when a task gets tough, just pause.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what am I trying to avoid here? Could this feeling of resistance actually mean I'm close to something important? Maybe lean in instead of escaping.
Go deeper instead of looking for the exit. I like that. Okay, so we've covered fear, those limiting stories, and the siren call of distractions. Now let's tackle something that might sound a bit odd at first. The problem with relying too much on motivation.
Ah, yes, the motivation myth. This is a really important one.
We tend to think we need to feel motivated before we start. Right. Wait for that wave of inspiration.
Exactly. We wait to feel like going for that run or writing that chapter or making those calls. But the overwhelming message from the sources is motivation. It's fickle. It comes and goes.
It's like trying to run a car on feelings. Sometimes you've got a full tank. Sometimes it's empty.
Precisely. It's just not reliable enough for the long haul.
So if motivation isn't the key, what is?
Well, it comes down to things like commitment, real underlying commitment, and discipline building that muscle. And maybe most importantly, having systems and habits in place.
Right. The structure.
Yes. That's what carries you through when the exciting feeling inevitably fades, which it will.
You think about athletes, right? They don't bound out of bed every single morning thrilled about pushing themselves to the limit.
Not a chance. But they have that deep commitment and they have a schedule, a system. They show up feeling or no feeling. We also saw a great example about a really prolific author, loads of books published, and her secret wasn't waiting for the muse to strike. It was a strict daily writing routine. Inspired or not, she sat down and did the work. That consistency, built on a system, was way more powerful than just waiting for inspiration.
So the practical advice here for you listening is maybe let go of the pressure to always feel excited.
Yes. Focus instead on building those small, consistent habits. Design your environment so it helps you, not hinders you.
Make it easier to do the right thing.
Exactly. And just show up. Do the work, even maybe especially on the days you don't feel like it. Those systems become your anchor when the motivation tide goes out.
So ask yourself, what's one small habit you could start building today that moves you forward, regardless of how motivated you feel right now.
That's the key question.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about something maybe a bit more subtle, but still really powerful. The expectations of the world around us. Family, friends, society.
Ah, yes, the external pressures. These can have a huge, often unconscious influence on what we even allow ourselves to consider pursuing.
It's like they draw invisible lines around our ambitions.
They really can. And often it comes disguised as care and concern, doesn't it?
Totally. Those well-meaning comments from people who love us. Are you sure that's wise? Maybe something more stable would be better.
I just don't want to see you get hurt. It comes from a good place, usually, but it can plant these little seeds of doubt, make you second-guess yourself.
Yeah, especially if it taps into your own hidden fears.
Yeah.
You start thinking, well, maybe they have a point. Maybe this is a bit crazy.
Exactly. Whether it's doubts about a non-traditional career or worries about financial risk, those outside voices can really amplify our own anxieties.
And here's a crucial point one source made. At the end of the day, nobody else has to live with your regret if you don't go for it.
That's powerful. Their advice comes from their perspective, their fears, but it's your life, your potential. And what really stood out from the material was this idea. Real progress often starts when you stop needing everyone else's permission.
When the internal validation becomes stronger than the need for external approval.
Yes. Cultivating that inner conviction. Trusting your own gut, your own compass, even if it points somewhere different from where everyone else thinks you should go.
So it's not about ignoring loved ones, but about learning to weigh their input against your own deep knowing, staying true to your own path.
It seems essential for tackling those big, maybe slightly unconventional goals, learning to navigate those external winds while keeping your own hand firmly on the tiller.
Which brings us to a tricky point. How do you balance that? How do you respect the concerns of others, but still build that unshakable inner belief to follow your own road?
That's the ongoing work, isn't it?
Okay, so we've laid out a fair few potential roadblocks, haven't we? Fear, limiting stories, distractions, the motivation trap, external expectations. Quite the list.
It can seem daunting when you listen like that.
Yeah. So now, the million-dollar question. How do we actually start getting past them? What are the practical steps? And our sources had some really good actionable strategies here.
Absolutely. And the very first step, which sounds simple but is incredibly powerful, is just to name the resistance.
Okay. What does that mean exactly?
It means getting specific.
Yeah.
When you feel stuck, actually identify and label what's holding you back right now. Is it fear of judgment? Is it that lure of checking your phone by putting a name on it? Oh, that's a fear of failure talking. Or, okay, I'm procrastinating with research again. You bring it out of the shadows. You make it conscious.
And that takes away some of its power.
It really does. Once you see it clearly, you can start dealing with it. It feels less like this vague, overwhelming force.
Got it. Okay, naming it. What's next?
The next strategy is about creating frictionless momentum. I love this phrase.
Me too. Sounds smooth.
It's all about beating inertia. You do that by starting ridiculously small. So small it feels almost silly, almost effortless.
Like if the goal is writing a book.
Don't aim for a chapter or even a page. Aim for one sentence, just one.
Seriously,
Yeah.
one sentence.
Seriously. The goal is an output initially. It's breaking through that, oof, I don't want to start feeling. It builds a tiny bit of momentum, a tiny win. And that builds confidence. It makes the big, scary goal feel just a little less intimidating.
Makes sense. Make it so easy to start, you can't really refuse yourself.
Right.
Okay. Then the sources talked a lot about changing your environment.
Huge. Our surroundings play such a big role. They can either support us or actively sabotage us.
How so?
Well, if you need deep focus, but your phone is buzzing next to you and your desk is chaos, you're fighting an uphill battle, aren't you?
Right, you're making it harder for yourself.
Exactly. So be intentional. Design your space, physical and digital, to minimize those temptations and maybe even visually remind you of your goals. Tidy up, turn off notifications, maybe find a specific focus zone.
Actively shape your context.
Okay.
Another powerful one that came up was building a new identity. This ties back to the stories we tell ourselves.
It does, directly. Instead of just thinking about what you want to do, start thinking and acting like the person who already does it.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If you want to be a writer, don't just say, I want to write. Start thinking, I am a writer, and then act accordingly, even if it's just writing that one sentence. If you want to be healthier, start identifying as a healthy person who makes healthy choices.
It's a shift in self-perception.
A massive one. It changes how you approach things. It drives actions that align with that identity. It's much more motivating in a deeper way than fleeting feelings.
Saying I am a runner feels different than I'm trying to run more. Okay. Strategy 5 was about staying connected to your why.
Yes. Your deep personal reasons. Why does this goal actually matter to you? What values does it connect to?
Why is that so important?
Because that's your fuel for the tough times. When things get difficult, when setbacks happen, and remembering why you started, why it's truly important, gives you the resilience to keep going. Reconnect with it regularly. Remind yourself.
That's the anchor, the deeper purpose. Okay, and the final key strategy we found was about forgiving failure.
Crucial. Because setbacks aren't just possible. They're pretty much guaranteed when you're doing something challenging. They're part of learning.
Right. Doesn't mean you are a failure.
Not at all. The key is not letting a mistake or a bad day completely derail everything. See it for what it is: data, feedback, a chance to learn. Practice some self-compassion, figure out what went wrong, adjust, and then importantly, keep going.
Don't let it stop you in your tracks. View it as part of the journey.
Exactly. Seeing failure as a stepping stone, not a dead end, is vital for long-term progress.
Okay, let's quickly recap those again. Name the resistance. Create frictionless momentum. Change your environment. Build a new identity. Stay connected to your why. And forgive failure. That feels like a really solid toolkit.
It really is. It addresses things from different angles, the internal psychology, the external setup. By putting these into practice, you can start to systematically take apart those roadblocks and clear the path towards those goals you really care about.
So here we are, wrapping up another deep dive. We've really dug into what stops us, hasn't it? That feeling of hitting a wall with those big, exciting goals.
We've looked at fear, those sneaky, limiting stories, the endless distractions, relying too much on motivation.
And even how the expectations of others can box us in.
And I think the big takeaway, the core message from everything we looked at is this. These obstacles, they feel huge, they feel powerful, but they aren't inherently stronger than you are.
Their power comes from being ignored.
Pretty much. From being left in the dark unexamined. From us not really understanding how they work on us.
But the minute you turn the light on, the minute you face them, see them for what they are,
that's when things shift. That's when you start to take back control. You regain that feeling of agency, and you can start building real solid momentum. So as we finish up here, we want to leave you with something really concrete, a direct call to action. Think about that big goal, the one that's maybe been gathering dust or feels stuck.
That dream that keeps nagging at you.
Yeah, that one. Today. Not tomorrow, not soon. Today. Take one small step towards it.
And it really can be tiny, right? Like we said earlier.
Absolutely. Write that one sentence. Make that single phone call. Uninstall that one distracting app just for a day. Question that one limiting thought when it pops up.
Just do something. Anything to break the inertia.
Exactly. Because whatever it is that's been stopping you, it doesn't have to win. It really doesn't. Not this time.
So maybe take a second right now. Which roadblock resonated most with you today? Fear, distraction, that inner critic.
And then ask yourself, what's the smallest possible action I can take, like right now, to start pushing back against it? Just one tiny step to begin dismantling its hold. Remember, progress comes from those consistent small actions and that willingness to keep learning as you go.